Do you ever want to dive deeper into the Bible, but you just don't know where to begin, or struggle to feel like you even have the time? When you read the Bible, do you get frustrated because you know there's so much more in there? You just have no clue how to get it out? Or maybe you want to know the Bible better, and you're looking for any resource to help. Then this is the podcast for you. Welcome to the Context and Color of the Bible. We're sisters. I'm Veronica.
I'm Erica.
And we love to study the Bible, and we love to help others understand it better. When it comes to our own study of Scripture, we have found that in bringing back the context of Scripture, it adds so much to our understanding. It actually adds color to the black and white pages of the text. So we left off last week at the end with Bryan's question of Daniel saying he wrote the book of Daniel and saying that God had favor and compassion on him, yet Daniel's request
was denied. Yep.
What do you do with that? We're back for your wisdom, Bryan.
Yes. So Daniel didn't throw a massive hissy fit or a tantrum.
Chase would. Feed me.
Let's talk about what he didn't.
Hangry.
He didn't say, that's not acceptable. I'm going in my safe space. He didn't jump off a building or, something permanent. Let's see what he did.
Well, but he didn't even go, okay, then I give up.
Yeah.
In a way, it'd
Just
be like, God, I tried.
Oh, okay. I tried.
I tried. You didn't allow it to make it happen, so
yeah.
Now I have your blessing to eat everything.
Yep. Yeah.
That
Bring
could
on
be
the ice cream and the yeah.
Hungry Gear.
Yeah, I think it's good to point out, like, what are all the ways I would normally have responded to this situation? Like, oh, God, I prayed about this. Nothing happened the first time. Okay, now I'm mad at you. Or
I'm done asking.
Yeah, I'm done asking. Or that's it. I'm walking away from God. And, there's too many currents pushing against me in this situation, in this educational, indoctrinational program that I'm in, and I just can't stop it. No. We see that he's faithful in verse 11. Then Daniel said to the guard, whom the chief official had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, said, please test your servants for 10 days. Let's pause a second, because there's so much here. So Daniel goes and tries again, but I didn't point this out last time because I was moving too fast. Daniel's first request went to the head honcho. That's like going to the principal or the superintendent of the education program. So what does he do in his second attempt?
The teacher?
Yeah, he's going to the one who's closest to him. Saying, okay, my initial request, like, I don't want to get that defiling food from the king's table. His first request was maybe to the wrong person. But man, even last time when we talked, he had favor with the person who's in charge of the whole program. And that person didn't kill him on the spot, but had a good rapport and had a legitimate reason to come.
Daniel, if I do it and you look bad, I'm in trouble. I'm dead too.
So Daniel comes to the guy underneath who's closer, probably even closer relationship. And I think what we're going to hear, his plan actually honors the chief official and respects him and tries to protect him. Because he's like, okay, let's go to the guy who's closer to me and say, hey, and this is what he says, please test your servants for 10 days. Just 10 days. And
we
give us
die in that much time.
Yeah, exactly. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearance with that of the young men who eat the royal food and treat your servants in accordance with what you see. And that's the guard in charge of them, he agreed to this test for 10 days. So, like we said just a minute ago, like this protects the chief official because it's not going to, they're in for 3 years. What's 10 days in 3 years? And then the chief doesn't risk losing his head.
In 10 days, he might not come around. You know, if he's the head guy, he's probably not there every day. So, okay, in 10 days, we can try it. If we start to look bad, we were sick.
Yep.
I mean, you know,
just had a bad week.
Oh, we'll be fine. Come back next week and they'll be fine.
Yep.
I mean, it really does buy the head guy time to leave, not come back and see him, but to test it.
It's a great test. It's it's reasonable test because it's long enough for them to have to see progress, but short enough that it's not going to affect a 3-year
not detrimental
program or throw him way off or get them behind or anything. And so he asks, "Let me eat vegetables." The word is the word zeroim, which is related to seed. So grain products, vegetables. Give us these things and water to drink. We're not eating rich, juicy meat and wine. We're not eating the rich food. We're going to eat kind of the plain blah veggies and grain.
Oatmeal.
Yeah. With no spices on them. Just plain oatmeal. And so we've seen bits of Daniel's conviction. We've seen his wisdom. Now we see his diplomacy skills as well. He's able to work with people at different levels, different cultures and language. God has really blessed him. He has given him favor. But
it didn't look like it was he thought it would look.
Yes.
You know, I mean, to me, okay, God, you're giving me favor. I get what I asked for. But instead, God goes, no, you'll get my favor, but you've got to learn a few more things or try a few more things.
And let's camp on that a moment. Is the official, he agrees to do the test. So we get that aspect of God's favor as well. But what we see, I think, over the course of last week's episode and this week's episode, God's favor doesn't mean the cosmic vending machine in the sky drops blessings each time you pull the lever. What we see in Daniel chapter 1 is a great example of God's favor. I think oftentimes manifests here as a divine partnership between God granting blessings, but then there's also a human perseverance aspect to it. God wants, keep
Get
praying.
Involved.
What's the next best step, Daniel? And maybe you're meeting resistance because I want you to keep coming back to me, or to humble yourself, or to listen, read my scriptures to hear more wisdom from the word. So this human perseverance plus God's blessing, and then a dash of wisdom. What are the hills worth dying on here? Was it a hill worth dying on when he was talking with the chief official?
Probably not.
Probably
because you probably might die.
Yeah.
Or you're going to lose his favor.
Yeah. What happens if you burn a bridge there? Then you could be in serious trouble. So Daniel's okay, well, let's dial it back. I'm going to talk to the lower ranking person. We're just going to do this for 10 days. It's just a test. And what does he say at the end? Then after the test, you treat your servants according to what you see.
He's still allowing that person to have leadership and say.
He's not going to demand, I'm open to what happens, and I'm going to leave the consequences at that point to God, whatever comes of it. So he's he's working within the divine blessing. So there's this partnership, and that's just the point I guess I wanted to draw out there.
Well, but I like that because I think sometimes we feel I prayed. That was enough.
Move on.
I got the no answer. And not that, I'm thinking of the persistent widow who keeps praying. I mean, maybe that is what you do. You keep praying. But going, okay, maybe there's a different way I need to come at this situation. Maybe there's something else God's wanting me to see or try.
So they go through the test at verse 15. At the end of 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the young men who ate the royal food. So the guard took away their choice food and wine, and they were to drink. They were given vegetables instead. So this is the conclusion of the whole eating sub-story here in chapter 1. As they're desiring to maintain their holiness, we find it's difficult, but it is possible in this situation. I think that's a good reminder. It takes this divine blessing, but also perseverance, but it is possible. And we're going to see Daniel maintains this for 70 years. So is this a story that's like the Daniel diet? See, you eat vegetables and boom, like it's great. Everything's good. I don't think so. I think that undermines the actual point of what's being delivered here. The main point is that what Daniel and his friends chose was contrary to the natural expectation. We expected that the food they didn't, them not eating the royal food should have made them sickly and weak. But in spite of that, God blessed them, and they looked healthier than any of the other candidates. To say that, well, they ate the vegetables, so that made them stronger, actually undermines the point that this story is trying to make.
Because that would be an obvious one.
Yeah.
If then we would have already been doing that.
Yeah.
Seeing vegetables and water healthy for everyone.
Then, everyone would have been doing it.
Right.
In fact, we don't read that everyone shifted to that diet. It was God was miraculously sustaining them, blessing them because they kind of went out on a limb and risked it. But they're trying to maintain holiness in a defiling land. And this is a key point here, that before we have men willing to be tossed in a fiery furnace or being thrown into a lion's den, we had to have boys who were willing to risk this for a diet. Like, would we have had Daniel 3, 4, 5? Would we have had those situations if they had just been like, okay, well, the chief official said no, I guess bring on the meat? Would it have all fallen apart? And like, this is a strong reminder to me. Some people often say, like, God, when I come to that lion's den, hold me fast. Like, it starts 70 years earlier. Like, you have to be, what do you need to do now for that faithfulness that may bear fruit 30 years from now? And think about this arc of your life that God's working on you. And where do you want to be in 30, 40, 70 years?
The traits and characteristics I want defining me as an old lady in my 70s and 80s, I need to start now.
Exactly.
Because you don't just turn an age and go, oh, now I'm going to be this.
Yep.
No, you're setting those habits, those patterns every day.
Yep.
And you don't just turn them off or turn them on.
Yep. So let's see. And they look better, stronger, healthier. They're given the vegetable diet. And then verse 17, these 4 young men, God gave knowledge and understanding of all kinds of literature and learning, and Daniel could understand visions and dreams of all kinds. So they're continued blessed not only intellectually in their studies, but Daniel's given these insights and abilities, a bit like Joseph in Genesis, but again, teasing some things that are to come. Daniel has this like supernatural insight, perhaps because he was the leader of the group and God's rewarding him certainly in awful, awful circumstances, but yet, like, okay, here's a little extra measure of my grace, that you're going to have an intimacy and an awareness to unlock these kind of visions and dreams, which we are going to see play out throughout the rest of the book. And then at the end of this time, as harrowing and as challenging as these 3 years would have been, then they're come and brought before the king. They're presented before Nebuchadnezzar himself. And this is like going to the president of the United States. Like, this is the most powerful man in the Middle East. This is the top dog, and they're presented to him. And you got to wonder what, like, the chief official and some of those guys are like, don't mess up, don't mess up, don't mess up, don't mess up. And the king talks with them. He inquires them. From other historical sources, we know Nebuchadnezzar wasn't just a doofus. He wasn't Belshazzar, which we come across later. Like, he was super intelligent, man, and he's testing them himself. He's, putting the pressure on, giving them questions, and finding that these boys, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, they were, what does it say? He found none equal to them. So they, like, you see, they just get brought into the king's service. And then verse 20, in every matter of wisdom and understanding about which the king questioned them, he found them 10 times better than his pagan magicians and enchanters. These ones that excelled in the occult and the demonology and the signs in the heavens. Like, these men, these young boys given godly wisdom, were 10 times better. And then it's just interesting, verse 21, Daniel remained there until the first year of King Cyrus, which is approximately 70 years. And it's like, you get this prelude to the whole book of Daniel and this intro to who this young boy is. And then this last statement kind of sets you up for saying, this boy was taken from his home, from his family, from his people. He's not going back.
Oh.
He's here for the rest of his life. But also, he's remained there, and we see that he finds the ability to be of service to the most powerful men of that age. He becomes God's mouthpiece to the most powerful kings. He brings godly influence into the imperial palace. And what Nebuchadnezzar intended to be tools for his advantage ultimately would become tools for God's purposes, to change the hearts and to sway the hearts of these kings that would come and go. And that's, I think, how the chapter unfolds and what it starts to set in place for the remainder of the book.
So many lessons. I mean, so much. You just go, okay. And I think I said this after one of the Daniels. I can't wait to meet him. I think it was Daniel in the Lion's Den. Where it's like, okay. Going back to the end of Daniel 6, I mean, it was like, that was a powerful, Daniel prayed in the face of adversity. Daniel was so consistent. They knew to come and go, we know when Daniel's going to pray. We know he can set a law and he will hold fast to his convictions. And you go, are these people who have been watching him for 70 years and go, we know what he does.
Yeah.
He's so dependable, so reliable. And going, okay, he was ready because he was consistent in the little things.
Yep.
And in the everyday things.
Yep.
So, good lesson. So now we got to get you to do Daniel chapter 2.
Yep.
At the time of this recording, I don't know when that's going to happen. But hopefully by the time this comes out, I'll have convinced Bryan to do Daniel chapter 2. So, thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time.